if you take two vegans, both on whole plant food diets, healthy vegan diets, and one of them eats more beans and lentils, gets more plant protein, and the other one eats beans and lentils, but maybe a little less, gets less plant protein, but still both healthy diets full of whole plant foods. Do we know, do you feel that we know that that higher protein level on the two healthy vegan diets makes a difference? And if so, if it is better to have more protein, there must be a limit. So, where do you suggest that limit would be?
Well, here's what we do know. We know these things pretty solidly because we repeated them in many studies showing this that corroborate each other. And that is plant-based or vegan diets that are too low in fat, that exclude nuts and seeds. People do not live as long. The 7-Day Adventist Health Study 2 was so significant for looking at people that were 7-Day Adventists that don't drink alcohol and exercise regularly and eat relatively healthily, and not junk food eaters compared to the average American. They're relatively healthy. They don't eat a lot of animal products, those that do. And those studies showed, and now it's been corroborated by several other studies, that when you take the fat out of the diet and make the diet too low in fat and take out nuts and seeds, thinking fat is the bad guy, they had worse lifespan. And the people, the flexitarians that ate animal products a little bit, lived longer than the vegans who didn't eat nuts and seeds. But the vegans who ate nuts and seeds still live the longest.
Mm-hmm.
So we're showing that the same thing the Wheel study showed. It showed that women, with regard to breast cancer, who ate the most vegetables lived the longest. But those that ate some fruit with the vegetables lived even longer. Those that ate beans, and so what I'm saying right now is that all these studies show that nutritional diversity and variety improves long-term outcome. And excluding a whole food group like nuts and seeds or beans was shown to be detrimental. And the other studies on protein and plant protein also showed the same thing, that longer lifespan is linked to both green vegetable consumption and bean consumption and nut and seed consumption. We have many studies. I've reviewed more than 1,000 studies on this issue to show that green vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, added or subtracted from the diet, either adds or takes away lifespan. And no threshold effect, matter of fact. More green vegetables still increases lifespan. And beans, so we're talking here about, yes, the highest protein plant foods are greens, beans, and nuts and seeds. And their exclusion to include a diet that's more macrobiotic designed or more potato-based or more rice-based is going to reduce, and less nuts. And I can analyze a diet side by side, one with 2 ounces of nuts, one without 2 ounces of nuts. And you'll see more protein, more zinc, more copper, more phosphorus, more vitamin E, more, you'll see more of all the important, on the same 2,000 calories. I'm talking about an equal amount of calories. And and less desire and less desire to overeat, and lower body fat percentages on the same body weight, more muscle fat ratios. So the answer is to your question is, I think we have evidence to suggest that it probably is true that a diet, especially as we get older and our protein bioavailability and the ability to digest protein goes down, that a diet too high in fruit could be too low in protein for an elderly person. If you're making the diet 60% fruit, I eat fruit at every meal, but I'm not going to make my diet mostly fruit. I want to get my protein supporting foods like green vegetables, beans, and nuts and seeds in there. But I'm saying a diet too high in fruit or too high in rice or too high in, or too much of one food where you're having too much of a staple of just one food all the time is not going to be as favored as a desire with more nutritional variety. I even advocate that people eat different types of mushrooms, not even one type of mushroom. Don't just eat the same type of mushroom all the time. Get 3 or 4 varieties of mushrooms you usually eat. Don't eat the same kind of green vegetables. Eat different types of green vegetables. Don't eat the same type of nuts. And of course, we're talking here also about making sure at least half your nut intake comes from the high omega-3 nuts and seeds, like flax, chia, hemp, and walnuts, because and low body fat also helps you maintain a favorable omega-3 index. As you know, one of the old timers, so to speak, in this plant-based movement, and as a medical doctor doing this work, I've seen many elderly vegans over the years, and many people who've come from the American Natural Hygiene Society, including their leaders and old-time doctors who passed away. And many of them develop neurologic deficits in later life due to a low omega-3 index. And we pay attention to that today. We make sure we pay attention to obviously B12, but certainly also to the omega-3 index, because we know we have more than a dozen studies showing a low omega-3 index is linked to shrinkage of the brain and heightened risk of neurologic problems in later life.
Now, do you yourself eat whole grain bread?
I do, but I eat that brand called Ezekiel bread
Right.
because it's made from like sprouted grains.
Right.
And because it's sprouted, it's higher in protein, it's less glycemic. I don't eat conventional like bread made from like whole wheat flour. It's the either Ezekiel bread or the manna bread, the types of bread that are made from the whole grain. It's much more chewy and you know what I mean, less
Right.
soft and mushy type of bread.